So, for those people who saw the interview with Nicholas Caldwell, so big news came out of it, which is that Rolemaster, a version of Rolemaster for Foundry, is under development. And for people who are excited about that, I've got a treat for you because I'm here today with Bob Morris, who is the man who is developing Rolemaster for Foundry. I'm really excited to hear what Bob has very kindly agreed to give us some time and to talk about his work and the upcoming project. Thank you so much for um, joining me on this interview, Bob.
Thank you, Ravi. Appreciate it.
So let's start with the basics. You're developing the official version for Iron Crown under contract, right?
Yes, that is correct. Although anyone who's worked on Rolemaster and Foundry, whether they do it for their own homebrew, like a lot of us started there, it's a monumental task.
I can imagine. And what's the deadline? When is this going to be ready? I know it's software development and there's a lot of vagaries and these things can shift around, but what's your target? What's your hope?
Originally I think I got the contract in July, middle of July, and then I had some confusion around does it need to be, when does it start, etc. But I wanted initially to be kind of maybe to wrap up with like core law and spell law by the end of this year, but there's a few things that have taken me a little bit longer than I expected, as always in software. So I think by the end of the first quarter, is really it look like it's more practical, as like I'll be able to have a conversation as we get closer to the end of that first quarter with Colin and Nick, like, hey, we can start preparing this launch. Exactly how do you want to deliver it? I think we had talked earlier about the deploy you being making it available on like drive through RPG. So if they want to make any changes, when we get into that new year, that's when they'll have to like helping me decide how they want to actually have it deployed. But I have a feeling this is going to be in drive through
So, so,
drive
so
through
let,
RPG.
let's say, bearing in mind the vagaries of software development, first half of 2025 for sure, by the
Yeah,
sounds of it.
yeah.
Yeah. And we can always follow this up again in the future with more videos. But before we start getting into the weeds, tell us what is the scope of the of Foundry? I mean, it's going to
Uh,
cover how broad?
wh- well, I would let for Rollmaster, it's going to cover ideal all the rules as written. Okay.
Wow.
That's as much as possible. Some things can be automated, some things cannot. Okay. But in scope, like core law will be complete. It'll spell law will be complete. The rules and stuff will be available online. And then treasure
Uh,
law, there's a
mm,
lot already done on treasure law. And then all those properties that you can all the alchemy rules that you can use to like enhance your armor, your weapons, etc. Those properties can be embedded right now into your equipment.
you know what
So
everyone's thinking? They want me to ask you, what about combat?
oh, obviously combat's actually where it all started. When I first reached out to ICE, that is what I had. So I had a homebrew version of Foundry that I had done for myself, and the thing that I focused on mostly there was combat.
Mm,
And so I had that was really rich, okay,
yeah.
in what it supported, and it was integrated with some popular modules that animate combat, fireballs, lightning bolts, shooting
Yeah.
arrows across the screen, and
Yeah.
my own players really enjoyed that. But so I just sent a note to ICE and I gave them some examples of video capture of combat and what it looked like in Foundry, and there was several months of conversation there, but in the end, yeah,
They must have been
they said,
intrigued to for it to get to this stage. It must have been some presentation you showed them.
"Oh yeah, I mean, there are a lot. They were really good. One, they're like they want to ensure that hey, look, we're not Hasbro or some other company. This is a passion. This has to be a passion project. You really have to love this in order to move this across the line. So yeah, I definitely understood that. And I've been wanting to build this since I was in middle school. Okay, that was a long time ago, and so this is like a little bit of a childhood dream come true to be able to do this content and be able to share it with everyone.
So all the
That's what
way
I'm really.
back then, you felt that the Rolemaster would could be translated into a
Oh,
software system of some, or some sort of a automated system of some kind in terms of the mechanics.
oh yeah. Being, one of the things you go back to the 80s and the 90s, like, the kind of like maybe the heyday of the system. Um, and if you wanted to make a bunch of really rich NPCs and creatures, it was a lot of work. You're right. You did it on paper. And if you were lucky, maybe you had a spreadsheet. But no, back then, the computers were pretty heavy. You were bringing those to your sessions,
Mm.
that I'm aware of. So yeah, on I really wanted, at the time, if I could have had a portable version of Rolemaster for resolving combat or for creating creatures or NPCs or even making sure my players didn't mess up the basic math, on character creation, I would have been all in.
Wow. So all the way back then, and I think you told me that there was a this is a very personal project for you, isn't it? Because there was a friend of yours who was connected to this.
Yes. It's a couple of, I think right around when, I don't remember what year it was, like, was it 2 years ago that RMU was released? So just they released it, and then like I was having I wasn't aware of the release date at the time, and a friend of mine had, he called me over to his house, and I'm sitting in his living room, and he's like, he's thinking, he's really sick, and he's asking, like, what, I had a lot of fun back in college and high school with that game. We should play that game again that we played back in college. And I'm like, are you talking about Rollmaster? And he's like, yeah, yeah, that's it. I would love to play that game again. We can get all of our friends that we used to play with. I'm like, dude, we haven't been
Mm,
a group in a long time. And but he was pretty much asking at a personal level. I was like, hey man, can you do this for me? I'd
mm.
like to, it really bring the band back together, type
Yeah.
of thing. And I said, "Oh, dude, if that's what you want to do, I will make that happen." And so,
Mm,
yeah, I went on the internet that night, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they just released another version of Rolemaster." I'm like,
mm,
"This is great." Because I went through my stacks in my basement, and I couldn't find my original books. Okay, so I'm like, "All right, buy an RMU." I don't even think, yeah, it was just core law at the time. So I was like, darn it, there's no spell law. And of course,
mm.
I found Discord channel and everything else, and everyone felt the same way. It's like, we got core law, but where's spell law? And so I said, hey Ed, man, we're gonna play, but we're gonna play without any magic for a while. He's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so uh got the books, and yeah, put together a campaign. And then it wasn't that long after that, he decided that, well, he came to the conclusion that he had to move out of state to go to a state that he had a better chance of getting like an organ transplant. And I'm like, oh, the game, he's gonna, that's, I don't have the game available on a VTT. So then I'm like, well, I know these things are available, I'm gonna look into that so we can keep this going. And Fantasy Grounds was absolutely amazing. I actually looked for a game that was taking new players. I said, hey man, I played RMC for, like, I have 1,000 hours of experience or more in that game, but it's a couple decades old. I would love to join this game. And so the guy let me in a game, and I played there for a couple months, and I was just stunned at the how well that was put together. And but it wasn't RMU, and that's what I wanted to play. So then I looked around at other VTTs, and Foundry, it kind of had, like, at least in terms of the skills I had as a programmer, it lent itself to me a little bit better than maybe Fantasy Grounds or the other ones. So I decided I looked at Foundry, what I could do, and I built a kind of a homebrew version of RMU for my game, for my campaign. And yeah, we started playing with it. And then then in Spell Law came out, as time permitted, I added Spell Law support to it.
What a great
And
origin story. So that's how
yeah,
that's how it all
yeah.
began.
And then probably many months after that, I'm like, man, everyone's on Discord saying, where's the Foundry version? I'm like, I'm, I mean, I'm close, but I'm not close. There's a lot of work to do to make something like just generally available.
Okay, so we are now looking at character sheet, and so the audience knows we just had to make the text really big for the sake of the recording, so it's clear to see, but it won't look expanded out like this on the actual character sheet. So yeah, talk us through what we're looking at. So we've selected the race, we've selected the realm, we've selected the
Uh,
power level heroic. Um,
yeah. So there's a lot of settings the GM can, when you come in to make your character. There's a lot of settings the GM is gonna like just pre-configure for you,
right.
and I don't know if we captured all those. I'm just gonna just like any Foundry game. You go Rolemaster Unified, and then there's just a slurry of all the optional rules
Yeah.
that you can enable. Everything from like the power level that we're setting at, which drives like how many stat gains or stat boosts you're going to get and stat
Mm,
swaps.
mm,
The talent power level, like how many DP can you invest in any talent before your limits reached.
right.
And this goes all the way down to like even like and spellmaster. Uh, there's like rules around evil spells. Are
Mm,
they available? Are they not?
mm,
Uh, like if I'm a hybrid caster, you might say they're available as restricted for hybrid casters, or maybe not. Maybe they're available as closed. Okay, and then for
mm,
semi-spell casters, you could say no, they're restricted.
mm.
So you can set up all the rules the way you want them. Let's see here. Anything other? Oh, then like if there's the compendiums, like if you have treasure law or spell law, there are obviously settings that you can use to enhance the game. So one of the ones that people really I think like is the treasure law extended armor rules, and
Mm.
that's the one where like the all the piecemeal armor all adds up to a full suit armor. So if you just have if you start adding like chainmail vambraces and greaves, and then you put on the full suit and chain helmet, I guess you call it.
Mm.
It would up to like if you just went and wore a full suit. In core law, there's a little bit of an imbalance in some of the piecemeal armor. So if you have treasure law, you can have all your piecemeal armor weigh what you would expect it to weigh.
Right.
uh, so yeah, and then there's other optional rules for
I mean, that's absolutely fantastic that it accommodates that sort of level of detail in that optional rule there. I mean, many implementations wouldn't have gone to the extra mile that you have there.
Yeah, it's the so a lot of the feedback. There's several Foundry people on the ICE channel. They've given me some just wonderful feedback, as well as the other integrators.
Mm.
Like like the guy who like Max, who's done the ERA. He's probably I think well, I don't think it'd be an exaggeration to say he's been doing this for like 15 years or more.
Mm.
Uh, and so like, hey man, it's like keep it, do raw, okay, but you got to
Yeah.
keep it open ended. You got to keep it open ended so that because you don't know what flavor the GM wants.
Mm.
So.
Out of curiosity, do you also cover the breakage factor?
Yeah. So we're getting so like yeah. So right now we're just looking at like the workflow to create your character. Okay, and
Mm.
it's your
That's why I'm
race,
jumping ahead. Yeah, we're looking at the
yeah,
character here.
culture, your profession. We'll enroll your stats, etc. And then when you get into combat, like all of the conditions, like are you concentrating on a spell that's going to affect like your AP, how many AP you can spend in a round, for example, or maybe you're hasting, you get extra AP at the end of your.
Mm.
So all those different conditions get tracked. The breakage in combat gets tracked. So that's like a common one that a lot of campaigns I think they really when you on the surface you're like, oh man, that'd be fun to play with, but when you're just using paper and pencil, it's really laborious to keep track of and track, especially for the GM who's got like a dozen creatures to keep track of. Um, but yeah, so like all your breakage is kept track of. So you could come out of an adventure, like your party, you come back into town or whatever, and you're like, wow, we won. We bring back this loot, and now guess what? Now you get to spend it on repairing your equipment because
Mm.
your armor is tattered, your weapons are bent, etc. So I think that adds a lot of flavor to the game. But
Yeah.
just the breakage. And I
So that's a roll stats button there in the middle of the cat sheet.
Yeah. So like on the character generation, one of the things that I right now I just do the random stats. That's the only I'm really focused on making sure that all the rules and the skill bonuses and everything is working as before I fill in the complete character sheet. So you're going to see the character sheet here, and they'd be like, oh, but you don't have, and I'm like, yeah, that's, maybe not hard. Maybe I'm doing that tomorrow or whatever, but I'm
Mm,
really focused on like the block working of like creating a character, the
mm,
block of level up. And then I did a really an extensive combat system prior to all the character creation stuff that they're going to marry here pretty soon. And that's why we have a couple more months to go before we're finished here. But so one of the things I want to do on this is be able to, like, you can just import a character from another system, or you can just enter a character on paper, and maybe you've been playing the character for a long time and now you're moving to Foundry. You can just you could just fill in the blanks and I'll do the calculations for you in terms of your stat bonuses and whatnot. But so here it's just right now it's just roll stats.
mm.
Um, and so we'll roll your stats, Ravi. Okay.
I just love that roll. Oh, that must be dice so nice.
It is Dice So Nice. Yeah, so that's optional. You don't have to use it. If you don't have it, it'll
Yeah.
still work.
Mm,
Um, and so if you go into the dice roll, so on that chat, like a lot of the
yeah.
games, this is
Yeah.
pretty common. You do something, you'll see some results over here. So
Yeah.
our power levels heroic, we're re-rolling all stats under 21. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's dice formula looks like.
Yeah.
And all these rolls in red were discarded. Okay, so if
Mm,
we work backwards here, so the last three, 99, 30, 39,
hmm.
we got a 99 and 39, and that 30 was discarded based on the rules. You roll 3 dice for every stat.
Hmm.
So, and then if we work it forward, so the very first stat here, 95, 42, we can see 95, the 42, the 95, and the 23. We threw away the 23, right?
Just
So,
as a question on that, at the bottom right, it's got 39, 30, 99, which would be the last set of three for the last stat there. And I understand how, the lowest of the three is discarded, and then you have 39 and then 99. So why has the 99 got into, oh, that is the potential. So I see,
yeah.
sorry, I've got it. So potential's on the left and the temporary's on the right. Yes, please continue. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, that's another thing. I mean, I'm not doing anything special here. This is kind of built. This is functionality that's built in the Foundry. That
Mm,
RR is a dice. It's called a dice modifier,
mm,
uh, and it's saying, hey, re-roll anything under 21. But like a lot of things, like when we created your character by default, the assumption is it's using the game settings. But the one thing is the default is just you start as human, and if you want to change it, you open up a compendium. I've already opened up the compendium for races over here
hmm.
on the left. Um, so do you want to be a human, Ravi, or do you want to be maybe I know in your last video you created a wood elf.
Wood elf. Let's go with the wood elf. Yeah.
All right. So we
I'm going through my wood elf phase right now. So yeah, that's great.
all right. So you can see it regenerated your height and weight in the chat
Hmm.
for a wood elf.
I
Okay.
see.
And if you want to like, oh, I really wanted to be male, we can flip that over to male. It's going to use the same roles. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. But if you go back to female, you'll see the female. And then what you see, like the height and weight is kind of grayed out because I'm not forcing you to use the random. If maybe you really had your heart set on being 6'5",
Hmm.
go ahead and type it in, and it'll use that. Okay.
Oh, I see.
So
So can you flip it again? So I see. So just under the sex, you've got height and weight, and that alters. I see that alters based upon the table that currently exists in Rolemaster rules as written. Brilliant.
yeah, yeah. So one of the things, here I'm omitting it, but when I'm trying, I want to actually reference some of the rules, at least on the online help,
Mm,
or at least textually. So like in the game settings, I do that. Like where'd you get this optional rule from? Well, I reference the rule, so you can go
mm.
look for yourself if you want. And that's another thing. Like if I mean, you're fairly familiar with Rolemaster, so
Yeah.
the compendium. So
So I
like if
see
some
you've got under intuition, you've got a little marker, a green marker there. Is it identifying it as a prime, or is that a tool tip of some sort?
Yeah, it's a tooltip. So that what's telling you right now, because we haven't picked our profession.
Mm.
It's picking intuition. I'm sorry, channeling as the default realm.
As a
Okay.
default realm, I see. Mm.
Yeah. Once you pick your profession, that'll either be locked in for you or you'll be able to change it. So, a couple of things that you have to. This is kind of normal in Foundry. Is you drag and drop from the compendium what you want to be. So,
Mm.
if yeah, like if this wood elf that comes in the rules as written isn't exactly the wood elf that your game master or you envisioned, you could create a different wood elf, okay, with different stat bonuses and talents and flaws, and you could drag that in here, and that would be your wood elf,
Which
okay.
opens the door to
Yeah,
customizing it for your own races, for your own campaign.
yeah, exactly. So we did that. So we haven't picked a profession yet, Ravi. So I'm gonna
Mm,
close the race one. So in this compendium, it's just broken down by, there's some folders, non-spellcasters, right? Hybrid
mhm.
spellcasters. And I think I
So
have,
yeah.
treasure enabled. So, oh, I'm bit by my own confusion here. So this is the core law professions. If I was to go to treasure law, open that up, I'm going to see some more professions in treasure law, right? And if I wanted to be one of those professions, I could use that. So
I see.
just like a race, you could create your own profession, okay,
Hmm.
and drag it in here, and then that would be the profession that it would use,
Wow.
okay?
You totally customize it for your own campaign, that means.
Yeah. So is there one you had your heart set on? I think you made a
Yeah,
rogue,
let's do a ranger.
a semi.
Semi, yeah.
All right.
Channeling, I
Boom.
think channeling realm. There he goes.
Okay. So our channeling, it's still saying RS. If you can see that, I know it's really small. That's just a
Hmm.
little annotation there. Just like, hey, that's your realm stat for spellcasting.
Hmm.
Okay. So the way this is going to work is this is kind of like when you make that, we made this character, this screen popped up, and you can just move forward and backward, okay, between all the different, I moved really faster, sorry, um, different things that you have to finish. And then this character creation, these are all the check boxes. For the most part, you want all of those checked before you hit finish. And finish is only going to be available when there's enough data, you filled in enough data that you could actually finish your background.
Oh, that's fantastic. So this really helps the GM because it allows the players to, it gives them so much assistance in terms of working out their character.
Yeah. So
That's just fantastic.
So here's the culture. We haven't picked a culture yet. So there's one more thing we have to pick before we can really get
So I
things.
can say to the player, okay,
I'm
go
gonna
through all
pick.
those check boxes, and
Yeah, I'm gonna pick
that's a
Sylvan.
great guide.
Okay, so just like races and professions, if you want your own, make your own culture, go create your own culture, drag and drop it, and it will be here. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So here, so now that that's filled in, we pretty much we have some stats rolled. We have a culture selected. We can't finish yet because we haven't picked all of our like skills. So like your giant eagles, you're a wood elf. So you can pick your rank. So the idea here is in your cultures, you got to get the ranks remaining to 0 of all that's
Hmm.
available. You have to run through that.
Right.
Um, in a culture, there's a bunch of skills that are you're just given. Okay,
Hmm.
so you can look at all those. So no matter what, you're getting ranks in these skills. Okay,
Hmm. And
and
how do you handle, how does it handle, can it handle the challenge of having to come up with, when you have to specify certain skills for what they're talking about?
oh yeah, let's just do animal handling. So like this one here, like it's you can enter it. So you don't have to select. These are just some of that came from the books or whatnot,
Mm.
or other characters have entered. So if maybe there's a really crazy like a spider. Okay, you can just type that
Hmm.
in, right?
I
Um,
see.
and then
There you
okay.
go. There it is.
And then combat is similar. Okay, so like one challenge with combat on your weapons is like there's some of the stuff on paper is super easy, and then when you go to put it in a computer, it's like, well, how are you going to visualize this? So one
Mm.
thing you can do is you can pick, I want an exotic weapon. Okay, so
Hmm.
the the example. Oh wow, that's really small on this. It doesn't like. Uh, I have my screen like zoomed in, but the operating systems of the drop downs it's not making that bigger. It says blowpipe right here, and it's probably hard to see. So you could pick the exotic weapon blowpipe, but maybe there's a different one. Maybe the game master made a different exotic weapon.
Hmm.
If you all that you need to do and is just type in that name, okay, whatever it is,
Hmm.
um, and that name has to exist as an attack table, okay.
Mm.
Um,
Like
uh,
Krull's spinning five-pointed thing that he threw.
yeah.
You could come up with
So
any customized weapon, and then it needs to correspond with an attack table. But if you invented the weapon, could you tie it up to an attack table yourself?
yep. So yep. So you can go in and you can change the chart. So there's two parts. So what I broke down the weapons into I broke apart like and this is it's kind of implied in the books. Like
Mm.
you see, go to like scimitar, you see there's a whole bunch of features like it's a long scimitar or whatever. There's different variations. Um, And then there's the tables that you roll on to like, oh, what was your combat result?
Yeah.
Uh, so scimitar, it has uses. Okay, and we'll cover that in a bit.
Mm,
You can have a if it's a long scimitar, it's going to have a property like it's two-handed.
mhm,
That'd be a greater blade. And then in there, by default, I have it set up that it knows what table it's going to use. And actually, there's an attack table called scimitar. But
mhm,
the GM might say, well, yours is special. Yours is using the arming sword one. Okay.
mhm,
He just has to change that
mhm.
attack table on that weapon, and then you're using that attack table instead of the scimitar one. So you can, and I think all the other VTTs do that as well. You can configure your weapons as needed. Okay, so you're not locked in, and so it does allow the GM to create new weapons and also give some flavor to everything that you have. Like, well, it looks like this, but it's an illusion. It's actually this other thing.
Right.
You can do that.
Right.
Okay.
So just like the old longsword that was rolled on a broadsword table, but with a modifier, you could set those sort of scenarios up.
Yep. 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 Absolutely.
And I can
So,
see it covers it. It's totally well, it's totally comprehensive. Well, talents, knacks, professions,
oh,
cultural skills, culture, realm, just everything.
yeah. So I broke it down like so. There's a lot of stuff that's in the rules if you read. Like there, a lot of times it's not necessarily like if you're a mute, for example.
Mm,
Then in the rules it says, well, we'd encourage you then to take lip reading in your language. So
mm,
like I've read through these rules. I probably missed some, but when I identify like, oh, that should be available in the game as a
mm,
drop down or a specialization, I'll add that. Okay.
hmm.
So then you know
Well, there it is.
I'm going to be really, really creative here today. Liberty Common. Uh, but so you got to rank in lip reading common.
Excellent.
So
When I'm making sort of hand gestures to my fellow wood elves when we're silently moving through the forest. Yeah, perfect.
yeah, yeah. So what I did that because like new players to the game, they're faced with language. Language is there's a lot of complexities in Rolemaster and it's really rich in what you could do with it as a game master. And then
Yeah.
the players are like, I don't know what to do with languages. I just want to
Mm,
speak and write.
mm, mm.
So I help break it down. Maybe that helps them.
I'm
So
sure it does. Because
professions.
most games just, leave you on your own devices when it comes to languages. They imply them, and they require the players to sort of make some decisions, but they just leave them to it. You really helped complete the process there, I think.
Yeah, and you see that as we did, I didn't complete my cultural skills. I mean, you want me to just rip through that real quick so we can see? So if we complete our cultural skills, the checkbox here will become checked, right? I'll just rip
Okay.
through that. I'll speed run this so we can just get it done.
Yep.
I was gonna pass on this, all right?
Fabric
And then
tire, excellent.
if I give it too many, it's gonna say no, you've already reached your maximum. So that's gonna force me to I gotta be a tapestry knotter or whatever. Oh, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, so that's just my choice.
And
Um,
make sure your character's legal, so you can't take more than you're allowed without being called out for it.
yeah, yeah. All right, and then
I mean,
I'm
the
going to be.
old Rolemaster, it's a nightmare from a GM's point of view to check on the accounting of how a character got to, particularly as he became a high level character. It's just
I am
impossible.
sure back in the day, I made plenty. I know I ran games and made plenty of characters, and years later, I learned I was doing it wrong. But you know what? I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, just that. That's
uh,
true.
all right, so I speed ran that. I didn't really talk through it, but I got all my ranks remaining zero of the available that I'm allowed to allocate, and I got them
Hmm.
to all these skills. And so now my cultural skills checkbox is checked. Okay.
Brilliant. Yeah, excellent. I see that. Yeah.
In the layout here, right? There's this like this is the left here is like what you're working on, right?
Mm,
The
mm.
here description will I try to give some background here, and then of what the point is, and then obviously the checklist. So the next part is our professional skills for a ranger.
Hmm.
Um, I was going to pick some for you. You're climbing, stalking, concealment, swimming, navigation, survival. You love creatures,
Yeah.
uh, perception, and it's keeping track of it.
I
You got
saw that. It was counting up to 10. Yeah, you've got one left to go.
Yeah, I have some criticism from some critique from some people. They want to put that like in the bigger, brighter, like right in the middle here.
No, you can't keep everyone happy.
Yeah,
Anyone's a critic.
well, those are fair. I
And,
actually write that all down, and I take that very seriously. So, and so
brilliant.
one thing that's happening here is like when you click this, it's marking this pro. This little pro thing it's going to tie into when we do skills. Okay, that
Okay.
means you use it as a professional skill. So like when we look at our skills table later, okay, when we get off the background,
Oh,
any
Bob, that's fantastic. Oh my God. Yeah, sorry, carry on. That's just so awesome.
because you might pick a professional skill, but
Mm.
you don't have any ranks in it, so you don't want it hidden from you. All right, so
Yeah, yeah.
when we go to finish this off, you're going to see like some of it's possible here. Like I didn't develop any skills in melee weapons. Actually, let's do that. I don't think I did any melee. So let's put melee weapons, and then we're gonna go back and make sure we didn't do any
So,
melee.
and these are the 10 that you're going to get +1 per rank up to +30. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, and that it tells you all that right there. Yep, yep, that's correct.
Fantastic.
All right, and I think what else we got left here? Okay, so we got knacks. So based on
Mm.
our power, we get 20. We get a 20 that we can split between 4 skills, and none of them can, and no individual skill can have more than 10 bonus. So we're gonna do melee, this riding, handling. That seems well balanced.
Oh, that's right. So when I did character generation, I gave myself two knacks at +5 each. Was that because is it more here because it's the heroic level of
Yes, yes,
I
yeah.
see.
I can jack. Okay, let's.
So the just two +5s, that's what do they call that level, which I imagine is more normal.
Oh, average. I think average or superior is the when by default it's superior.
Okay.
That's that's what they in the rules. I believe they everything in their examples. I believe everything is superior. My campaign, it's set up like this because I actually use this for running my game and testing.
Mm,
I have it just by default set up as heroic, and
mm.
that's in the game settings, and it's easy to change. Um,
Oh,
so,
excellent.
so now we got all that typed in.
So you select the power level and it just has a cascading effect all the way through the rule system.
Yep, yep. Set it and forget. And so one thing that you're not going to see here. So that's just your basic one. So a GM may have like, let's say he's working on a creature. He
Mm,
can go, he can change that power level for that creature or for that NPC. But
mm,
player characters are going to take that default, and the GM could go in and change that power level on a character if they want to change it for some reason
mm,
after after creation is done.
mm,
You're going to lose some benefit of being developed at a lower level, but whatever. The GM can really go in and just edit the properties if they want.
mm,
But so that's just to help them when the GM's saying, "Hey, here's the link to my game, my campaign. It's all configured. Go at it. Go make your character." And I have a lot of optional rules in there that let you like sliders. You can do so much of this or so few of these things, or and yeah, you'll be able to create your character.
mm.
Um, it,
So essentially, you allow the GM to define the way he likes the rules customized, and then he can then give that to his players so that they're contained into rolling up their character according to his own customization. Bob, that's brilliant.
yeah, yeah. That is the goal. And yeah, then okay, so we just have some the combat costs, right? You're going to be better at ranged weapons. So you click one of these, it's just going to swap. So if I want unarmed here, it's just going to swap shield and
Ah, the old weapon categories. So they're called training groups now.
yeah. So we're going to be our cheapest is going to be ranged, then melee, then unarmed, and then shield. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's see what else we got. Okay. Ooh, one thing we didn't do any stat boost. So um, the stat boost thing, I've had a lot of thought on this. Like I just did the work, and I might this might look different in the near future, but right now it kind of explains what you have to do. I can click on agility, and it's going to tell you what you can do, all your boosts based on your power level, what you can do. Okay, so you
Hmm.
can replace agility with 81 and 86. Okay, the
Hmm.
potential temporary. You can do 2 stat gain rolls, or you can swap it with your constitution. We'll just do a couple here. Let's do a stat. We'll do a stat gain roll. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now, it got okay. So in the chat, it told me what happened. Okay, AG 42 plus D10 may not exceed AG 1095. New AG is 42 plus 10. Maybe I didn't. I'm like, dang, I'm going to spend my other stat gain roll right on that agility because I didn't like it. 10. Okay. That's better. All right.
There you
Uh,
go.
yeah. And then let's see. I want to
So
replace.
does it keep count? It knows you've used one of your options, your
Oh yeah.
boosts.
Sorry, I'm really so. Uh,
Oh, there it is. Boost 2 of 3 remaining. Boost 2 of 2 remaining. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not
Sorry,
gonna.
swaps 2 of 2 remaining and boost 2 of 3 remaining.
Yeah. So if I do a boost here, you can see that I swap my empathy, temporary and potential with the.
Right. So now you only have one boost remaining. It's keeping count. It's excellent.
Yep. I'm not making use. So what's happening here is when I click on that, it's telling me the options for that stat. Okay.
Hmm.
It's also looking at all your other stats to tell you what you could do with those stats. So
Hmm.
I like it really should do the second. I really should play the Constitution. It's saying, hey man, you
Hmm.
can you can make this better. So maybe I'll go back to my Constitution here and I'll do the boost. Okay. And then I think my swaps. I'm a ranger, so what's my biggest one? Let's swap with intuition and my quickness. Let's see. I think I'm going to be my strength. Okay, so I've used all those, but let's say I didn't like man, I really did. Why did I do a stat gain roll on that? That made no sense,
Hmm.
right? You can you can undo it. Okay,
Hmm.
and then they're going to boost our intuition. We're going to do a stat gain roll on our intuition. That did it work out as
Yeah.
and is there anything?
It's
Let's
not your
see.
day. Or it's not my character's day. Yeah,
Yeah,
why am I laughing? This is my character. Okay, there you go. That's a good roll.
yeah. I think that's exactly what we rolled before, a 1 and a 10.
No, that
Um,
was a 2 and a 10, but very close. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so
Okay, so
now,
all of those check boxes are done just down to talents.
yeah, so talents, I just actually just integrating those as last night. So this are all the ones that you're getting because of your wood elf, okay? And then
Yeah.
if you want to, you could go in and add some others, okay? So I'm working through how I want to visualize this right now, and where I
Hmm.
think I'm gonna end up. I was gonna like add where we just you could do plus up pop up dialogue, and you could just kind of surf them.
Hmm.
Probably gonna go back. I'm probably gonna use for talents. I'm probably gonna drag and drop those out of the compendiums
Hmm.
just so get more work, more functionality out. So
Hmm.
like all there, okay, in the compendiums, and you can drag and drop those over. Let's. I suppose we could drag and drop. Let's. You can be. Oh man, I can't remember. You can be mute. Okay.
Okay. Well, that would go with the lip reading I got earlier. Yeah.
I drag and drop it over. So you can see it showed up in there.
And
Um,
it's subtracted 10 from my development points.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
so yeah that will be available. And I'm just working on this, and I don't think I've ever like drag and dropped a talent over on background yet. So we'll be in for a surprise. But we're ready for love. We're ready. We've got our background done now. Okay,
Mm.
so we can click finish. All right, and then
So,
we're
so,
gonna
so talents doesn't need to be checked, or is that going to come?
yeah no
Because it's
yeah
kind of optional, isn't it? Talents. It's
yeah
an
yeah yeah.
optional step. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so that's one of the visualization things. Is like it works really. It's like same with boosts and swaps. Those don't need to be checked. Like if you're happy with your stats, like you don't
Hmm.
want to swap them, you don't have to use all your swaps.
Mm.
So I have to denote that these are optional.
Right.
Um,
So you'll get around to doing some sort of denote that with visualization that there are some that are optional and some that are mandatory to complete.
yeah, the big signal right here is you're all of a sudden you're finished. Maybe I could do a little alert when it first comes that you're available that you can.
Or just have two different colors, one for mandatory ones and one for optional ones on the list. But yeah, why am I getting involved? You know what you're doing.
Brilliant, brilliant. It actually it takes the community feedback is huge to make it successful. So. All right, I'm gonna hit finish. Hopefully, all right, we are now level 0. All right, so this is where I'm saying
Excellent.
like I haven't filled in the character sheet. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm focused on getting the character built, and
Hmm.
then so that once I'm happy that background and I'm really close. I'm just trying to wrap up how I'm going to deal with character development with talents, like on that initial bit. I'm
Hmm.
vacillating back and forth and overthinking things. Um, and then I'm going to fill in the character sheet. And because we're kind of like crushed on our width here, like you can see, like all these numbers, if you were to go in rules and apply the optional rules I have turned on, like I have stride optional rule turned on, that your R would be correct, your max pace would be correct based on what you have carried.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of functionality in there that I'm not showing. This is like your skill sheet, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit taller. Um, all right. So you can see, remember the spider and the eagle, and you
Mm-hmm.
see these are marked as pro. That's telling you that these are professional skills.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And going to and your specials that you may have said, why did I pick giant eagle? I thought I picked bear
Mm-hmm.
or something, or horse. Okay. So you can still change that specialization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, And then if you want, like, let's say you're in a game and maybe you're playing from level 0 and like you're supposed to do a riding maneuver on maybe it's a camel, okay? You
Mm-hmm.
can add you can add that skill, okay? You have no ranks in it, but you could roll the dice.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to compute your stat bonuses and everything for you. No problem. So this is if you're just gaming. This is like if you're at a level. This is pretty much the way the skill sheet looks. And then there's this little favorites thing here. So like on the main character sheet, the plan is to have like the skills that you reference a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be able to filter this list down or search. Like just type in P.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. I was thinking it's such a long list. How are we going to visualize it? So this is the solution right here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's going to be filters at the top here. Like I just want to see, like you just be able to type, and I can show you that. I have an older character sheet where the skills collapse really fast. Like you can just type and they filter into what you're looking for. And I just haven't put all that filtering into this version yet. I was
I
more
see.
worried about the level up process. So
Got it.
add the filtering into this very soon. But
So I
then I
take it you
know,
can collapse by categories. You'll be able to filter by favorites. You'll be able to search by the name.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah, that's where that's going. Um, and what you see here is just I need to make sure I can test every little nuance. So of the numbers that are being calculated. So that's
Hmm.
why it is right now. All right. So like let's say if you're, you're supposed to start at level 1, all you have to do is give yourself 10,000 experience points.
Hmm.
All right, and then this bar, just like there's a little bar across the top that's going to have some contextual information for you. So once you get to the experience where you can level up, the level up button will be available to you. Okay.
Oh, I see. Excellent.
All right. So you'll see a transformation here. So here at the top here, it's saying like, hey, you have 0.63 DP to spend. You must have got actually. How did I get? Let's see here. So we get
So
20.
it's suggesting you've spent all of your development points already.
No, no, you've spent zero of
Oh,
60.
that's how much you've spent. I see. Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. You get three for being a wood elf because they get so many innate talents and so on already. You only get three extra for being a wood elf, and then you get 60 for by default.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's breaking it down where it got these numbers. Oops, I keep moving off of it. But like if you hover over the information, it's telling you get 60. So one thing I probably should have turned off of the video is I have for my campaign I allow people to save 4 DP per level,
Hmm.
and I call that bank. That's in the optional in the configuration setting. There's a ability to do banked development points. Right now you have 0 banked. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so it's telling you that you can finish development between 56 and 63. Okay, so you don't have to spend it all.
Hmm.
Anywhere, anytime you spend 56, you'll be able to finish your level up. Okay, and
Hmm.
anything between 56 and 63 then will be left over for you because it's racial, that carries over for as long as you carry it. And
Hmm.
then and if you start spending over 60, it's going to spend your bank DP before it spends your racial DP. But that shouldn't normally be a problem. All right, so let's just go give us some ranks, spend some development points real quick. One thing that's your spellcaster, so I want to get down here.
And I think with the racial extra development points you get for your race, I think you can only spend, what is it, about 15 or so per level, and then you have
20,
to 20,
25. Yep.
25. So if you calculate, that accommodates that rule as well, where you can't spend all of them if you've got a huge number. in one given level.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get through here. All right. So let's say you're restricted lists because you're a ranger.
Hmm.
So when you're going to picking your spell list, what it's going to do is like, it's going to tell you this is restricted. And it's going to tell you where your restricteds are coming from. So restricteds are generally the base list of other people in your realm.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, you can see I have treasure law enabled, so it's picking up sanctifier.
Excellent.
um, yeah, let's go do some power curse breaking. You're going to be a ranger that can do some holy arms. Well, you spent
I like it.
a lot of development points on that one, buddy. I don't know if that's a good. Uh,
It's
blood lo-
a one note character, a one trick pony.
Okay, so we're at 62. Uh, and do one more here.
So what I'm looking at here is a completely uncompromising translation of the rules into Foundry.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I want to. Yeah, I have a bit of OCD about the how things. I'm going to press the level up now. Okay, when you go from level 1 to level 2, and you can see that the notation up here by your level, it says you're going to 2.
Yeah, lovely. I mean, I've used Foundry for quite a few years. This is, I mean, it's only in development. I appreciate that, but this is already a stunning implementation.
And so now that stat gains are available to you, it's um, here's one, the 4138. You see this little warning sign
Yeah.
telling you that you can do a stat gain here and you can roll a d10, but
Hmm.
it's not going to improve your stat bonus. So maybe you don't want to spend any development points on it.
So it's telling you that there's no extra gain. Even if the stat goes up a little bit, it's not going to go up enough to to take it to a different stat bonus. That's fantastic. I get it now, and that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, I did that because I have some min maxers in my group, and I did this for a specific person. I'm like, this person will, because I've watched them level up, and they go through every rule when they're leveling up to make sure every DP has the biggest whatever they're trying to min max that
Yeah,
accomplishing that.
quite right. Quite right, if you ask me. I do exactly the same. I confess.
Okay. So here now my new temp is 53. So what happens here? I did a stat gain here. I went from a 52 to 53.
Okay,
Let's do.
another bad roll.
Oh, we did maximize that one though.
Okay.
And again, it's putting all that stuff out to chat. And so our DP cost. It knows that those are 0. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
get per level up. But I'm really disappointed here. I'm willing to invest, some more DP. Yeah, well, that really is worth it. Um, and I also don't. The GM could say, "Look, I want you to undo that stat gain roll. You could undo it. You get your DP back." Okay.
Mm. So it accommodates GM Fiat as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And go ahead and re-roll it. So you could do that.
You've got to
So
catch the GM on a good day. That's the key. Wait for a good day before you do stack game rolls. That's my suggestion.
that was my Foundry, my Fantasy Grounds experience with that GM. I rolled some awful stat gain rolls. He goes, "Let's do them over."
Yeah, always do it on a Friday evening. That's the right time. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're back into skills. So this isn't going to change much. We pick some
Mm.
spells. Um, So here, remember I talked about the professional skills. Like we've developed no skills in melee weapons, yet we pick melee weapons as a professional skill, as an
Okay.
attribute ranger.
Hmm.
So it's letting you know that right here that, hey man,
Mm.
you're leaving some bonuses on the table that you haven't spent. Okay,
Great.
so these are all the options.
Helps the list. Those markers help shape the list for your profession as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then somehow you have how did I give you a beak? I probably just accidentally. Yeah, so I changed that. Oh, I know that. Okay, yeah, yeah. When we did that, when we were doing our initial culture background, I wasn't really careful on how I picked the specialization for unarmed. One thing I want to do is make sure that like that those options. This is kind of a nuance here, but like if you're doing unarmed, like there's that list there should be trimmed down based on what the features you have of your race.
Hmm.
So if you don't have a beak, you know,
Yeah,
don't have it in that drop down. So
right.
those are some of the nuances I have to still flush out.
Mm. You
But
don't want sort of scorpion tail in that list for this character.
yeah,
No
but
relevance.
yeah. It's just like so. Right now, if I look, I got all these things. It's like even trample. Trample's interesting, right? Because trample,
Mm.
I think you have to be able to trample someone. You have to be 2 sizes larger than them, and I think there's
Hmm.
going to be an rule that changes that in the future. But um, that's so like to develop a skill in trample, like you really have to be uh, practically you have to be a big creature or
Yeah.
large, right?
Mm.
Um, to trample a human, I think you'd have to be large. So so you might have a creature that's their prime. They're investing in that because they want
Hmm.
to just right. They could develop trample, but like a human, the only thing you're going to trample is a sprite. You're not going
Mm.
to.
Yeah.
You're probably not developing skills in trample. So
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, so that's kind of like that's pretty much like the level up. That is the level up process. You just as soon as you hit level up,
Hmm.
you you can start going. And what's nice is, Ravi, you don't have to finish it. You can close your character.
Hmm.
Okay, if someone called you, come back
Hmm.
to it, and you're in the same state it was.
Right. And does it tell you when you've completed the process? Do you get some indication in that regard?
Yeah. So this,
Finished. There it is. Yeah. Once again. So let's do a quick recap. So what you've shown us is that this is going to be a stellar translation of the rules into Foundry. You're not only going to be able to roll up your character and all the things you'd expect, but the GM as well is going to be able to define the rules that he wants characters to, the players to the parameters for character generation. The character generation process is going to be uh, complete, including all of the optional rules and so on. Also extremely customizable. They can come up with new character classes, new races, new weapons, and so on. So you're not locked in any way to what's already there. You can also make it expand it, customize it for your own situation, for your own campaigns. It also walks players through the process, and it walks players through the level up process. That's absolutely phenomenal. What can I
yeah,
say? That's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, um, this is not the work of a journeyman. This is so obviously that this is a passion project for you.
yeah.
I can't.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it is a lot of work. In development, you always underestimate like how even something small how long it can take you.
It's really good. That implementation is really, really solid. I have used various implementations of Foundry. I've been using Foundry for years. I know what I'm looking at. That is excellent, and you're ahead of all my questions. The other thing we didn't mention, but it's also clear. Yes, you appreciate the feedback, but the feedback means nothing unless the person who's doing the development is open to feedback, and you are. You're incredibly, to use a corporate term or business term, but you're very kind of customer focused, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I really love the game. I love role playing games. I mean, it was to be honest, the why I got out, Ravi, why I
Mm.
stopped playing, because like when I was in college, I'm like, man, if I don't stop playing Rolemaster, I'm not going to graduate. It's just not happening.
Yeah,
So I had to go. I put myself on like cold turkey. I
yeah,
just put it all in my credenza or whatever at home, and I locked it up, and I didn't look at it again. And it's not
that
because I
must
don't.
great discipline.
It's because I love it too much. Okay,
Are you a player or a GM?
I only get the GM.
Ah, the forever GM.
I only get the. I don't even think I'm that. My players they say it's amazing. They love it. I don't think I. I mean, at best, I think I'm average. Okay,
Let's talk about what do you want to cover next? So you were saying, I think, equipment.
yeah, we should there's a lot of color around equipment that I don't think you normally appreciate when you're playing Rollmaster or any game. You have a sword. Maybe it has some really interesting attributes, right? Like +5 or it has some sort of charge on spell that you can use. Um, but with yeah, with the Rolemaster in Foundry here, you see all the detail of like the crafting. There's some play into the cost of the weapon, the weight, its density. Also breakage is tracked on every item.
I
So
can't wait.
there's some real color there.
Your enthusiasm shines through. We're gonna we're gonna we'll cover this. We'll cover this. We'll devote a whole video just to looking at that on the next occasion. But for now, I think I'm just conscious of how much of your time I've already taken up, and I think it's time to thank you for your time. I think it was a wonderful walkthrough, and to the audience out there, I hope you enjoyed that. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this content. We're doing more of these videos. And if you happen to be watching at some point in the future, sometime about a third of the way through 2025 or more, take a look at the comments, and you should see a link to the finished version of Rolemaster Foundry. And for now, I wish you farewell.